In this week's Tableau Tip Tuesday, I'm going to show you how to use nested level of detail expressions. In this example, I'm going to go ahead and show you how they work compared to grand totals, subtotals, and table calculations. So let's look at a pretty simple example. Let's say we want to look at ship modes, sales, and average and number of orders. So let's do count distinctive orders within each region and ship mode. Now I'm going to go ahead and rearrange these. And what I want to look at now is the average order size, so the sales per order. So let's create a new calculated field, sales per order. And for this, I'm just going to do the sum of sales divided by the count distinctive order ID. And when I put this onto the view, you'll see we get 338. Now I can verify this calculation, so I can say I've got 58,747 divided by 174, so 338 when it rounds. Okay, perfect. So this now gives me the sales per order within each region and ship mode. I'm going to go ahead and go to my analytics pane and just turn on my totals, my subtotals. And you can see here that I get an average of 427. Well, how's that calculated? Let's go ahead and look at the sales divided by the number of orders. So 501,240 divided by 1175. So that gives me 427. Okay, so this is calculating kind of the weighted average, for lack of a better term. But what I might want to be able to do is I might want to take the average of those four values. So in other words, I want to look at the average sales per order within the region. So I want to add up those four and divide by add up those sales per order values and divide by 4. So you can see in my tooltip the total of those is 1575. So if I do 1575 divided by 4, you'll see I get 394, which is different than this 427. So, and one way I can verify that is if I click on the subtotal, you'll see this option here for automatic. I'm going to go ahead and change that to average, and you'll see now I get my 394. That was the value we were looking at before. So this is taking the 4 sales per order values and dividing by 4. So how do we could calculate that a couple of different ways. We could get this 394 through a table calculation. So I could look at something like, so let's do sales per order per region as a table calc. So what I want to do now is I want to take the window average of the sum of sales. Sorry, not sum of sales. I want to take the window average of my sales per order and hit OK. And when I drag that into the view, I want to go ahead and set this to compute using region. And sorry, I computed that wrong. So edit table calc. And I want to flip these around. So I want to do it by ship mode. And you'll see I get my 394 for each of those. Great. That's kind of what I want to happen. But if I want to take ship mode out of the view, so let me go ahead and duplicate this sheet. If I now take ship mode out of the view, watch what happens to our sales per order. So if I take ship mode off, what I want to see now, so before I do that, let me undo. So before I do that, what I want to see now is I want to see 4 rows, 1 for each region, and I want to see 394 as my sales per order. So let's take ship mode off, and my calculation breaks, which is fine. So let's edit this table calc, and there we go. And you'll see we now have 427. This is kind of that weighted average that we were looking at before. So again, it's 501,240 divided by 1175, and I get my 427. But what I really want this value to be is that 394. So if I go back to my previous sheet, I want to see 394. So that I can't use a table calculation because I don't have all the dimensions I need in the view. So this is where a level of detail expression will come in handy. So let's create a new calculated field, and I'm going to sales per order LOD. And in this case, I'm going to fix it on region, because I want to split it out by region and by ship mode. And I want to take the average, let's see, I want to calculate the average sales per order. Okay, and let's hit OK and drag that. Let's go back to our previous sheet and make sure that works right. So sales per order, you'll see I get the same values, 328, 329, etc. But, and if I average this, I get my 394. So what I'm looking for is Central should say 394, East should say 500, South should say 492, and West should say 473. So what do we get when we add it into this view? So I'm going to go ahead and take my table. I could leave my table calculation on there. That's fine. Or actually, I'll take it off. And now I get 1575 because it's adding those values up. So what it looks like Tableau is doing now is it's not dividing by 4 because I need to take that average. So if I do 1575 divided by 4, because we know there's 4 ship modes, I should get 394. Okay, so what if I change the aggregation to an average? Now I get my 394. Okay, great. But I could also then write that as a level of detail expression. So if I create a new calculated field, and I'm going to call this average sales per order across region. So in this case, I could say fixed, and I want to fix it on the region level this time. And now I'm going to take the average of my other table, of my other LOD, my sales per order level of detail expression. So level of detail expressions read inside out. So the sales per order level of detail expression is calculated first. That's returning 4 values, 1 for each region. And then I want to take the average of those. So let's see what that brings me. So there we go. So we get the same values. Okay, perfect. But you might be thinking, okay, well, why do I need to do that if I don't want to, if I don't really care? I already have region in the view, so it doesn't really matter. That's a good question. So what I might want to do, though, is I might want to look at, well, what's the average of these averages? So what's the average sales per order by region and ship mode? So we could then write a third level of detail expression. So let's call this average sales per order by region and ship mode. I know this is a long title, but bear with me here. Across all regions. So what I would do now is I would do another fixed level of detail expression, but this time I don't want to fix it on anything because I want it to be the total. So now I'm going to do the average of my average sales across the regions. So now we've got 3 nested calculations. So if I go ahead and click on this one here, you'll see this is my, over here on the right hand side, you can see my inside calculation is fixed on region, and then my sales per order LOD was fixed on region and ship mode. So what does this value look like now? And we could take that, and we get 465. So where do we get 465 from? Let's go ahead and put our grand totals on, and you'll see we get 465 here. So my overall sales per order is 459. How's that calculated? So that's 2297. 201, which is our total sales, divided by the count distinct order ID, which is 5009. So that gives me 459. So my average sales per order level of detail expression is going to be these 4 values. So let me lasso these 4, these 4 values. Let's see, these 4 values. Come on, sorry. Trouble lassoing things here. So 1859 divided by the number of rows, which is 4. So 1859 divided by 4 gives me 465. Okay, great. So now we have our grand total, and if I take region off the view, you'll see I now have my grand total, which is very nice. So the usefulness now is I could take my sales per, my average sales per order and divide that by the average sales across the whole country to see how they compare. So, so let's call this a difference to global average. And in this case, I could say I want to take my average sales per order That's my this column here, and I want to divide that by my overall average. Hit OK. Or no, I don't want to, yeah, that's fine. So I can go ahead and drag that into the view. I need to set the default number format to a percentage. Let me just do it to 1 decimal. And you can see that in the central, they are really basically 15%. So let me actually do 1 minus on this. So 1 minus my calculation. And now we can see that, oh, sorry, wrong way around. I want to do -1. -1. And now this tells me that the central is 15, its average sales per order across the region is 15% lower than the global average sales per order by region and ship mode. And notice how the overall is 0, which it should be, and East, South, and West are both performing better than the global average. Okay, so I know that's probably pretty confusing. So let's maybe look at another example. So in this case, let's say we want to look at the number of, let's see, the number of orders for, let's say, each, maybe each product ID. So to do that, we could actually, let's look at the average sale for each product across all categories, or maybe the average number of unprofitable orders per customer. Let's do that one. So let's look at the average number of unprofitable orders per customer. So we want to bring in the segment, and let's look at the customer name and add all members. Okay, and we want to look at the whether or not each order is unprofitable. So let's start by bringing order ID in as well. And of course, this is bringing up a lot of data now. And we want to know, let's put profit in here. And we just want to flag these, yes or no, are they profitable? So I'm going to call it profitable order. And what I'm going to say here is if profit, sum of profit is bigger than 0. Actually, I don't need the if. I could just say sum of profit is bigger than 0. Let me throw that on the color shelf so we can see what it's doing. We can see the blues are unprofitable and the oranges are profitable. Okay, great. So now we want to do is we want to start by looking at, so again, the goal is, let me go ahead and add this to the title. So this is our average number of unprofitable orders per customer for each segment. All right, this will be just our little reminder for what we're trying to achieve here. So we have our segment, we have our customer, and now we need to count the number of orders that are unprofitable. So let's count, let's say, unprofitable orders. So in this case, what we want to do is we just want to convert the Boolean into a integer. So these are profitable orders. And so let's go ahead and hit OK. And if we drag that into the view, you'll see I get 1s and 0s. Actually, let's see. Yeah, that's fine. So I'm going to actually flip my, I'm looking at unprofitable orders. So I need to switch this around. So unprofitable orders would be less than 0. Okay, so now we know each time we see a 1, that's our unprofitable orders. So if I take order ID off the view, you'll see that for Aaron Bergman, I should get a 1 coming back. But if I take order ID out of the view, I get 0 because it's looking at the total profit. So the total profit is 129. So that's where a level of detail expression comes in handy. So let's call this unprofitable orders by customer and segment. So in this case, what I want to do is I need to write a fixed level of detail expression. So at the segment level and customer name. First, let's say, let's try it like this. First, let's look at the number of unprofitable orders. And I need to go, yep, I'm sorry, I'm missing my mustachio at the end. Hit apply. And let's drag that into the view. And you'll see we get zeros and ones. Okay, because again, it's looking at the unprofitability at the segment and customer level. So I need to add order ID into my level of detail expression. And you see I get the same results here. Great. So now if I take order ID off the view, what I should see, let me go ahead and close this. What I should see for Aaron Bergman, I should get a 1. For Adam Schilsberg, I should get 3. For Adrian Barton, I should get 2. So let's go ahead and take order ID off the view. And you'll see I got 1, 3, and 2. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and take unprofitable orders. Actually, let me undo. And I'm going to get and duplicate this sheet so that you can see it all along the way. So if I take, what did I take off? Order ID off the view. You can now see I have 1, 3, and 2. Okay. So this is now giving me the number of unprofitable orders per customer for each segment. Okay, so now what we want to do is within the consumer segment, I want to add up these values. So let me just scroll down until I get to the next. I think I can just hit the shift key. So let's go down to the next. Let's go down to consumer. Let me see if I can do it this way. I think I can hit the shift key. Nope, it's not letting me pick them all. That's okay. So in consumer, I can see, let me duplicate this sheet. It'd be a bit easier now. Let me take profit and unprofitable order off. And now for the customer segment, I can see I have 554 unprofitable orders across these customers and segments. So what I want to do now is I want to return 554 for consumer and take customer name out of the view. So, all right, we're getting there. So I want to look at the, let's see, the total unprofitable orders. Orders by customer across the segment. And in this case, so I need to raise the level of detail. So I'm going to fix it on segment. And then I want to take the sum of the unprofitable orders. Let's see, unprofitable orders by customer and segment. And remember, this unprofitable orders by customer and segment is itself a level of detail expression. So again, this is a nested LOD. So it does this inside one, Tableau calculates inside out. So it does the unprofitable orders by customer and segment first, and then it aggregates that. It's going to add those all up to the segment level. All right, so hopefully that makes a bit of sense. So now if I take customer name out of the view, I can see I get that 554 that we were looking for. So what if we change this to an average? So now we get 21% of orders. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back here. So we have, let's see, the number of rows we have are 409. So you can see we have if I look down here on the bottom left, I can see I have 409 customers within the consumer segment. And if I take that, so what I say it was again, 409. So let's take customer name off. So 409 divided by 554 is 73%, but then I need to subtract 1 from that, or no, 1 minus that, and you'll see 26%. Okay, so what happens now when we change this to an average? And I think, let me make sure I did that right. So 409, yep. So let's go forward. We have 554, but that's not, and I change this to an average, and you'll see it gives me 21%, where when we did the straight math, so 554, or sorry, that's wrong, 403 divided by 554, and if I do 1 minus that, you'll see it's 27%. Okay, So how can we fix that then? Because what we want to look at is the average number of unprofitable orders per customer for each segment. So what we want to do is we want this to be an average instead. So this is our total number of unprofitable customers. If we change this to an average, let's see what happens. So now let's go ahead and did I change the wrong one there? Yeah, so this isn't going to matter here. So I had that as a sum and hit apply, and it didn't do anything. Let's change it to an average and hit apply. The number stays 554, but let's change this now to an average, and now we get our 21%. So now this is showing us the average number of unprofitable orders for each customer in each segment. So this can then be handy. So maybe I turn this into a chart instead, and I could turn my little labels on. Actually, let me undo so that we have these along the way. Duplicate. Let's turn this into a chart. And we can now see that, let me go ahead and make this entire view and turn my labels on. And I can now see, let me change my aggregation for this. So let's see here. So total unprofitable orders, I had the wrong field in there. And if I change my number format to a percentage, let's just do it to 0 decimals, we can see that 21% of our customer, 21% of the orders within each customer, or for each customer within each segment, are unprofitable. So I know that's a lot. Digest it, try to come up with your own examples, and hopefully you found that useful. So again, the key thing to remember there is that level of detail expressions work inside out. Let's actually do one more example, really simple example. So let's look at region and ship mode, and let's do 3 things, and category. And let's put sales in the view. Okay, so that's giving us the total sales. Let's go ahead and throw our subtotals on. And we can see our total sales across the ship mode, 21,000 represents the furniture sales, the first class furniture sales in the central region. What I want to do now is I want to look at the total number of the total sales across the ship mode with a level of detail expression. So let's call this sales per ship mode and region. Actually, let's call this the average sales. And this time I'm going to do a fixed level of detail expression. So I'm going to do my region, my ship mode, and my category. And I'm going to sum up those sales. That'll give me the individual values. So let's first see what that's doing. And I want to change this to be an average so we can see what it's supposed to do. So I should get 19,582 back. Let's put that into the view, and we don't get that particular value. So what does that mean? So what Tableau is doing now, so if I change this to an average, you'll see I get my 1952. I'm bringing back the correct number, but I want each row in here to say 19,582. So we'll build this one out as the as one calculation. So now I want to say fixed on region and ship mode, and I want to take the average of those individual values. So it's going to be the average of these 3 values. So let's hit apply, and now we get our 19,582. Okay, so we can now, let's change this title a bit more. So this is now saying, let's see, what is this saying now? Average sales per ship mode and region. So I'm going to say average sales per ship mode and category across the region. So I'll just put this in here as a comment for now and update my title. Okay, actually let's undo that. So what I'm going to do is in here, I'm going to put this calculation so that you can see that this is average sales per ship mode. And now I want to look at, so this one will be my, actually this is my average sales per ship mode and region. This is my average sales per ship mode, per region, ship mode, and category. And this should just be sales. So hopefully this makes sense. So now I want to look at average sales per region and ship mode. That's going to give me, that's now giving me this 19,582. And now what I want to look at is what is it overall for the central region. So you see I should get 41,770 down each of these rows. All right, so now this is, so I want to look at my average sales per ship mode and category across the region. Okay, so now I could just fix this on region and take the average of these values. Hopefully this makes sense. You'll have to build your own to really make sure. So 41,770, that's the number we were looking for before. So let me undo so we can see it. So we got 41,770 here. I hit forward and I get 41,770 there. And then I could aggregate that farther. So now, you know, I could aggregate it up to the overall. So if I scroll all the way down, we have, if we put our grand total on, we could have it so that the grand total is 47,858 by creating a fourth level of detail expression in here. So hopefully you found that useful. I know it's complicated. That's kind of the you know, but it solves a very specific problem. So this is telling me what is my sales for each region, ship mode, and category. So 21,038 represents the sales to that level of detail. The average sales, this average sales column actually represents the average sales across the region. Okay, so lots of examples there. Hopefully it helps you understand level of detail expressions and nested level of detail expressions. The key thing to remember is they work inside out. So think about it as you're getting a separate table along the way, and then you're aggregating on top of that table. All right, if you have any questions, let me know. Have a good day.